Hi there.
Hello there.
This is another special episode of Chat Schmat. And we're here to talk about the New Year's Day episode of Doctor Who and the following episode, the two-parter opening for Series 12.
Spyfall.
Indeed. And we're going to talk about the episode and our opinions on the scenes, and lots of excitement, isn't there?
Oh yeah.
Lots of stuff.
Lots of stuff coming up.
Yeah, great stuff. So don't go anywhere. Stay with us and
But first,
hear what we have to say.
Put on the kettle and make yourself a lovely cup of coffee or tea.
Hi everybody.
Hello there.
We're back, and this is actually our little discussion about the latest series of Doctor Who, which started back on New Year's and over the weekend, and very interesting beginning there. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's been a pretty good opener. I mean, if someone who's not really a fan of Chip Moore's writing, like a lot of my friends, I actually feel like he's actually started to make his mark on the show, and I feel like it was nice to open with a very epic story. Some issues with the episode, as always. Certain directions I don't like them with this current run of Doctor Who, but other than that, I think there's scope.
My name's Doctor. The Doctor. We're on the list.
Welcome. Go right on.
So what we're going to do then today, we're going to discuss episode 1 first of all, and then we're going to give our thoughts on various things that happened, and then we're going to move on to episode 2, and we'll just give our thoughts on episode 2 as well, and where the series is going in general compared to last year. So basically, in this particular episode, they had a cold open, and the cold open was very sort of spy movie like. It was a bit like Bond, a bit like Mission Impossible, and then we go into this whole the new opening, which carries over from last year. What were your thoughts on the tone of the opening, the sort of fast-paced nature and all that kind of thing?
Well, the fast-paced tone has always been consistent with Doctor Who ever since it came back, compared to the classic era.
Compared to last year?
Compared to last year, definitely. Well, one thing that was evident in last year was they kind of cut out the teasers, and when there was no teaser, they had no title sequence. So it was nice to have a cold open, then go into the titles, and then cut the episode, which I was happy to see come back.
I thought it was very, it has become very CW, where they say, previously on Doctor Who,
Yeah.
Using, Jodie as the voiceover. I don't know if they did that. Did they do it with Capaldi? But I certainly know.
No, they never did a voiceover.
Yeah, they've done that, which is interesting.
I think it's trying. It's borrowing more from American TV shows. Now, I don't really watch the CW shows, but they're always more flashy, very fast paced, which is probably what Modern Orange is like. Whereas I kind of like standalone stuff, and I like a good story. It's not how flashy it looks. It's about how good the story is.
And so when we get past the title sequence, then we get to the refocusing onto the personal lives of each of the companions. We see Ryan with his friends, and then we see his name was
Gray was getting a checkup.
He was getting a checkup. Hi, remember my wife died. So we basically have like a little bit of an intro back into what they're doing at this stage, because really, a year has gone by since the last episode.
Yeah.
So I guess they're trying to show that.
A whole year, New Year's Day to New Year's Day.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, we have this whole business of them being taken by MI6, and they go back and they see Stephen Fry. But what I will say is there was an elephant in the room with the whole MI6 thing, which I guess was addressed here. Unit and Torchwood.
Yeah.
And they're firmly writing those organisations out, at least for the moment. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think they did a good? Do you think they did it respectfully, or?
Well, I was never a fan of I didn't really like Torchwood as a show, so I've no problem with Torchwood being written out. However, Unit, it's been there since the Triton days, and it was a staple of the John Pertwee era, and it has always been ever since when the Doctor was exiled there in the third Doctor's form, and I feel like it became part of the family. There's the Unit family, and then Unit never disappeared. It kind of always came back to Unit. And I feel like they've jettisoned a whole part of Doctor Who legacy. Especially
when they're bringing back the Master. If you remember, the Master was very much part of the Unit era, wasn't he? Doesn't need to be necessarily, of course, but
and then during the Moffat's tenure, he kind of created a new Unit family. And, we had Kate Stewart, the Brigadier's daughter. We had
Osgoods,
the Osgoods, and so we were getting a bit of a Unit family again. And in the audios, I know that they brought the old family back with the new guns. So I do feel like a part of history has been lost by getting rid of Unit.
But I do think it's one of those situations where, as fans, we can't sit and dictate what should and shouldn't be in a show.
Oh yeah.
And I think, overall, they may bring it back, but I'm happy enough for them to explore new ideas and old characters in different ways. Only thing that worries me, and we'll get to it later, but is what they're going to do with the legacy of the whole show.
Yeah.
As a in terms of what comes along later on in this episode and the next one.
I mean, I have no problem with things being shaken up, as long as it respects what came before.
What do you think? Back to the story. I know you'd mentioned to me before that you felt Stephen Fry was kind of underused, but I sort of saw more of instead of called C, I reckon he should have been called X, as an exposition, because he basically was telling us, filling us in on everything that was happening, and then got shot in the neck. That was the end of it. He was really only there to fill us in and give over some gadgets. What do you think?
Oh yeah, it was basically the function of a James Bond film.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm talking about the early days of
Yes. Now, one of the things, obviously, they bring up the different characters in there when they're in the office with C, and they have Lenny Henry, who's very well known in the UK as largely a comedian, but he obviously has been in some dramas, and he's been in sort of drama comedies and. But I thought his portrayal in this as the sort of Bond villain, if you like, was very, very underplayed and very well done. I thought. I thought he was really, really good in this. And the character he plays is Daniel Barton, and he has he came up with this fictional search engine, Vor. And it plants the seed in the story for what comes in the second part, which we'll discuss in a moment. But basically, he is like big technology and that sort of thing. And we learn little bits and pieces about him as we go along in this. The other thing I wanted to mention, just while we're here, is the music in this series in general. But since Jodie Whittaker took over. Now, the orchestrations in the episodes are by Alec Roberts, and I think in this particular episode, I think the level of quality has been raised. I don't know whether it's because the first episode was a New Year's special. I don't know if that's partly to do with it, but it certainly felt very much more cinematic. Not really on the level of Murray Gold in terms of the nuances of it and the various themes, but that might change and it might be more noticeable, but it certainly was for me. What do you think?
Oh yeah, I think the budget for the show has looked like it's gotten bigger. There's more location filming happening now in Doctor Who.
Yes, and just the theme, it was Sagan Akinala, is that how you pronounce his name? he had revamped the theme, and he had put a lot of effort into the sound of the show, and then the Alec Roberts then and his team, Olga Fitzroy, and I'm not sure how you pronounce that, Goetz Botsenhart. I don't know, I'll put the names on the screen anyway so you know what I'm butchering. But the whole team, the sound is becoming very unique to this Doctor, I think, and I'm saying that I'm a fan of it, and I look forward to seeing what they actually have to do. So just to the next part, we meet the character of O, and O is someone that the Doctor has met before, and it's off screen. We don't know what he does mention, doesn't he, that he met her when she was a man. So it could be Capaldi, but we just don't know. We don't know which particular Doctor that was. But there's nothing much revealed of the character in this episode. He just goes about his business. But when you look back on it, you kind of think the force field part, that does the British government really have that kind of ability to hold these creatures where we don't really know where they're from?
I think it's a bit of fictional technology. I mean, this is technology that looks equivalent to what top tech you have in Star Trek in the 23rd, 24th
this
centuries.
is what I'm saying is I'm thinking they're laying those down as a clue as to the character having more knowledge than a human should do.
Yeah.
And I thought it was very well done that they placed it in there.
Well, looking back on that now, thinking back on that little scene now, given the twist,
it was something I know. I watched it back again, obviously to talk about it here, and just to talk about that because the actual portrayal of O, and in the beginning, certainly in that episode, was very understated, because obviously you kind of think, he's just this guy that's been helping the Doctor, but there are little things, that a little bit suspicious, that he drops little hints about little words and things that he drops in there. But we'll get back to him in a minute, because I just wanted to mention him because I thought the character that he played of O was very well done, leading up to obviously to the end of the episode, which we'll get to. So the mysterious aliens, I thought they were very well realised, very reminiscent to me of 1950s sci-fi, with the hats and everything, and that kind of idea in silhouette. And even whenever the shafts of light came out of the human form, if you like, I thought that the aliens were very well realised and really cool visually. I was a fan of the visuals for this. As a side note, I also went online and I think it was on Instagram or Twitter, I can't remember which, and the costume designer was talking about their bow tie looks, the spy looks, and I just to comment on that, I thought everything looked awesome, looked amazing, and the costume design was just brilliant. Really gave that feel of being a spy movie, and obviously there are certain things, certain motifs in spy movies that you expect, and when they went to Barton's party and they were dressed like that, and then it's a typical spy movie, they all gamble and then they have to escape from the villain and all of that, and there was a car chase and everything, which I thought, given it's the BBC, was an impressive, although I'm not too sure Lenny Henry knew what to do with that gun.
Yeah, I think it's one of my friends from work. Basically, he was saying if Lenny Henry's Barton aimed 1 centimetre higher, he would have hit them. Because he hitting the wheel. So if he went up an inch higher, he could have hit someone. So
I think he went to the Stormtrooper School of Shooting, didn't he?
Yeah.
The A team.
I always call it the henchmanitis. You can't have good shooting, because apparently that's just it's not good for the hero. It's not good shooting.
And I just wanted to at this point then just talk about the spooky realm. There was kind of shafts of something coming up. It kind of almost looked like it could have been prison bars or something. I don't know. I was just trying to see visually what it looked like. It sort of looked like a prison of some kind, where Yaz went to and she was taken to, and where the Doctor then was taken to as well. It was all very strange, ethereal.
Organic looking.
Yeah, very organic, but to me it did look like prison bars of some kind. Maybe I'm reading too much into that, but it was never really explained, so we'll never know. So yes, I've made a note here to say about this that in this episode I think Yaz actually remembers that she was in the police, and she actually is consistent with all of that.
All the writers remembered.
Yeah. She's consistent with her skills. She's not just,
But I always thought she was very underused last year.
Yes, and it's good that they've kind of decided to do something with that. And also, yes, there was better chemistry between her and Ryan, I think, this time around. And with that, the other thing as well is the companions. There's a lot of them, and one of the things that I find, especially sort of Tom Baker, Peter Davison era, is that some of them are the spare wheel. And I think in this episode, Graham was the spare wheel. He still had some good lines and things, but he basically didn't really do much. He tagged along with the Doctor when she went to Australia, and I think he was the character that suffered. I think, which we'll talk about in a moment, in the second episode, the actual companions had a better setup of, better division of activities, let's put it that way. So we have to talk about that end reveal of O becoming the Master.
Yep.
Or rather, not that he was becoming the Master, but
the Master's latest form.
The Master's latest form. So I made some notes here because one of the things about the reveal was that the performance, the shift in the character was incredibly impressive.
Oh yeah, very impressive.
The Master, of course, always that little bit OTT, and I think everyone that plays the Master puts their own stamp on it. And I think the way he did it, because obviously he's got a little bit of every Master in there, very John Sim, and a little bit of Anthony Ainley.
Well, the one thing that was impressive is the fact he brought back the TCE.
Yes, we'll get to that in a moment because he goes into more detail in that in the next episode. But just as a sort of cliffhanger, I thought it was very, very nicely done. I didn't see it coming, and I did see the Master trending on online, and I still didn't get it. I thought they were talking about him coming up in a different episode, in the teaser trailer or something. I didn't twig either. So as an opener for the series and as a two-parter, what do you think? What do you think of this episode overall, the first one?
It's a pretty decent opener. I actually thought there's a lot of twists and turns. I feel like it could be if I had some of the problems with the last season. I think for a triple script, it's actually a pretty decent one. Although, of course, as Doctor Who, especially the modern era Doctor Who is, sometimes I think some plot points are actually thought of it before they actually realise what sense it doesn't really make. Overall,
were there any big glaring things that jump out at you? Speaking about that,
well, sometimes I feel like sometimes I do feel like in modern Doctor Who, the sonic screwdriver becomes the easy tool to get out of everything, even more so than classic Doctor Who, because it can interface with everything. And sometimes I feel like it does too much.
Well, what would they do though if they didn't have the sonic? What could they do instead? I think it's like almost like Superman and his cape. The Doctor has to have a sonic because at the end of the day, that people see the Doctor as a hero now. They don't see him as he was in the classic era. Mostly in the classic era, as some guy who randomly shows up and knows all the answers. He was very much more humble, although the Doctor was always self-grandiose. He was always blew his own trumpet. He always tried to play down that side of things, whereas more recently in the New Who, he has become a legend among the people, the other characters. He was a legend among himself and his own people.
And I suppose also
in the New Who, he's more, everyone knows who he is, and the whole kind of
and then it's really confusing now, all the pronouns, because now the Doctor's a woman. We can't really say him now.
Well, I refer to the Doctor as him when I'm talking about overall, when I'm referring to this series, I talk about her because it's the only way to do it. You know what I mean?
He's so used to him being a man.
Yeah.
But I have no problem. I mean, my mum refuses to watch Doctor Who now because she's a woman. But Doctor Who, the Doctor is what I think is open for a woman to play. Now that it's established that it can be, you can choose gender in a generation. The only thing is, I feel like that this should open the casting up. So who's ever cast next, go male or female. It does. To me, it should open the pool. It shouldn't be a case of every Doctor from now should be a woman. I think it should be who's either or.
Well, I think, speaking of which, the other point I wanted to bring up was a lot of people will be slightly upset that of the timing of this, in that, if you were to binge watch Doctor Who, you would have sat and watched through the whole Stephen Moffat era of Missy becoming redeemed, and the John Sim Master being killed, and that's something, that's a 10-year gap kind of story that you don't expect the Master to come back from for a while. You don't expect to see them.
It does feel like redemption has never.
But in this case, the Master is a really good character for this story. But at the same time, a lot of people are, including myself, are fans of Missy. And is it ruining what Missy did? Is it ruining her character? Is it rewriting what she did? We don't know that. We don't know the history of this version of the Master, so we don't really know whether that will be the case or not. Having said that, I do enjoy him being there, and I look forward to seeing what's going to come up.
And also, and even though the Master had apparently died last time, that means nothing, because how many times has the Master apparently died and still? Sure, don't forget, in the Mark of the Rhino, he came back after apparently died, and then David Bar explaining, and he's just back.
Yeah, him and Davros both have some skill that I'd love to know. And now Palpatine from Star Wars, they have this ability to find a way back from the dead.
Yeah, as if they know their plans are going to fail, so they have a contingency plan to escape death.
Indeed.
Say hello to the Doctor. I see you decoded the fish. Fancy a copper?
Very much.
And coming up, we're going to cover part 2, so stick around for that.